3, 2, 1. David, how are you doing? It's good to see you.
I'm doing pretty well, Mark. How you doing?
Okay. I think spring has almost sprung, and we have a little bit of a celebration for this podcast.
Yeah.
I guess, is it a podcast? I think it is.
I think it's a webcast.
I don't know. Everybody seems to have these days, but it's an anniversary for us, David.
It is.
Would you care to share?
5 years since the onset of the pandemic.
Yes, and obviously 5 years since the onset of our relationship.
Yes, that's also true as well. But I thought for the audience, my spin on it probably would be received better.
Well, I think it's either way. It's important. It's important to understand that.
It's been a long, strange trip, as Grateful Dead would say.
Mercatus has been proud to support your research, get the word out, bring the insights to our shared audiences, and we look forward to continuing to do so.
We've appreciated and enjoyed the partnership, the collaboration. You guys have pushed us to do some things differently, which is always good, and we look forward to continuing.
Likewise. All right, we're here to talk about March 2025, eGrocery sales numbers. What's sticking out? What stands out? What's the headline for the announcement this month?
I think the headline from my perspective is this is the 8th consecutive month where we've had monthly sales exceed $9.5 billion. I think that's noteworthy. And put that in context, if you think about, well, how many times before this, current streak did we eclipse 9.5 billion? The answer is 0. Mm-hmm. If we lower the threshold to $9 billion and ask that question over the last 5 years, how many months have exceeded 9 billion, excluding the current run up? The answer is going to be 4, spread throughout the years. So the reason that's important is that we've essentially had a stair step up in our baseline business that started, about 7-8 months ago. And that is continuing to fuel the surge that we're reporting year over year. March is no different. March 2025 versus last year was up over 20%. And to not sound like a broken record, it was driven primarily by delivery, which again has benefited disproportionately to all the aggressive promotional activity, driving more households to sign up for an annual membership or subscription plan. So that's the headline, subhead, and maybe intro paragraph.
Let's talk. And I know we've talked about delivery ad nauseum for the last few months. Let me ask you this. Would you characterize the U.S. market as a delivery-first market now? I know when we first started, Europe, the U.K., definitely a delivery-first market. But looking at the numbers, it's hard to argue otherwise.
Yeah, so just a point of clarification. The U.S. has always been a delivery-first market, and by that we mean that's the way the majority of the retailers entered the online space. Not all of them, but mainly regional grocers. When they first went online to compete, they were joining various third-party marketplaces, which were at that time focused on delivery.
But looking at the fulfillment method, the dominant fulfillment method.
Yeah. So yes. So that's where I was going to pivot. We used to say that the U.S. market was a delivery first market, but a pickup dominant market. It's still a delivery first market. That's just how it grew up, but it is shifting to a delivery dominant market. Now we're in the very early stages of that. I mean, in fact, just within this last month or two is when delivery eclipsed pickup in terms of share of overall eGrocery dollars. What we anticipate for the remainder of 2025 is delivery share will continue to be higher than pickups. To what extent it grows more, we can talk about that. And the outlook beyond this year would also now say that the dynamics have shifted in favor of delivery so that we now have a view that delivery will continue to strengthen for the near term, next 3 to 5 years, absent dramatic changes to strategies that are used to promote and build pickup.
So let's touch on that. As we record this, and this is in the aftermath of what looks to be a wholesale change in U.S. trading policy. The administration has implemented their global tariff regime, the effects of which have not yet been fully felt, likely to be increased pressure on inflation as we go forward, higher import costs, higher input costs, and this balance we see between discounting to promote receiving methods like delivery. At what point do you think there's going to be a shift in whether this model can continue or not?
Well, I think the deep discounting, the 50 to 80% off the list price for the annual membership, will become even more appealing for those that don't yet have one and are looking for ways to conserve more cash. For those who have it, they're insulated to a degree because they're no longer paying that explicit fee each and every time. However, they're going to be dealing with the effects of price inflation on the basket of goods that they're buying. For those reasons, we would see that the tailwind will push likely more demand towards the price value players at the lower end of the market. So that would be most likely, in this case, Walmart when it comes to online. And then in store, we would add Aldi.
But do you see the discounted delivery being a strain on the margin of those players who are offering it?
Well, that in essence is a cost of acquiring or locking in the customer. And when we look at how they get their return on that, obviously it's going to be driven by increasing the number of orders that household is now placing with them, as well as the amount of items that they're putting in that's driving up that average order value. So assuming that those things are happening, and we are seeing that over a longer time period and a broader view, then we could look at that as a way of justifying or measuring the return on that investment. I mean, what we do anticipate is those retention rates of customers associated or linked with a membership or subscription are going to be considerably higher than non-contractually obligated customers. So that has a benefit in and of itself because it's going to reduce the pressure on attracting and finding new customers with their own level of incentives. So I think it could cut both ways, but right now I would say it's 6 one way, half a dozen the other.
I think you're indicating about half monthly active users are purchasing 4 or more times a month.
Right. From the same service.
From the same service. Do you think they'll accept higher prices for that convenience going forward? Or will they switch to cheaper options?
Well, so I think there's a couple dynamics there, at least two. One is within the context of that really frequent shopper, that person who's placing 4+ orders within the last 90 days with the same service, their first action may be to change their buying behaviors with that particular grocer, right? And that may be looking for deals, shifting from national brand to private label, buying smaller sizes, or cutting a few of those discretionary items. That's one scenario. If you're a regional grocer with that customer, the next issue you have is, well, if that customer also is online shopping with someone like, let's say, Walmart, well, now we have to start to worry about sales leakage, especially related to center store items where unquestionably you're going to pay a lower price at Walmart, right? Unless it's a private label that's the product in your basket, which again will help keep that customer buying from you if they value your private label. I think it depends on who we're looking for. I mean, again, even at Walmart, let's be clear, those customers are in a position where their options are very similar. Do I trade down in size, trade over to private label, reduce the amount of items, buy more on deal? Now, Walmart also has an added benefit. They have Walmart Cash. So someone may be looking at buying a particular item like dish soap, and let's say there's a manufacturer deal where there's a TPR, but then there's also this opportunity to earn 50 cents or $1 in Walmart Cash. So that could influence it. And the power there is the Walmart cash is basically a deal back, right? You can't use it on that transaction, but the money that you accrue from that kind of gets put in your bank. And in your next transaction, you can decide to apply the balance of your Walmart cash to reducing your bill the next time. So again, a lot of moving parts. Walmart's really protecting their customer and trying to prevent them from making the hard choice, which is to shift away, right? Shift away from their store, whether it's online or in store. Because again, Aldi will be the low price leader in the physical world. They just don't have the same reach and attraction that Walmart has online, especially with delivery. Walmart has to work just as hard to protect its business from some of the same effects that the regionals will be. They'll just have to do it a slightly different way.
So I'm going to put you on the spot. Let me ask you this. Of the regionals, which ones do you think are best positioned to weather the current environment?
Relative to online?
Online and the being squeezed by the larger discounters.
Yeah, so just the broader would be, those who are more competitively priced against the value players. And that just simply means those retailers who have lower prices compared to other regional competitors are going to be in a good position. I don't want to name names, but you could look in different regions and call out who those EDLP or hybrid EDLP regionals are. So I think they're in a good position just because of the economic turmoil. Customers are going to have a flight for value. So wherever prices are lower, they should benefit. Relative to online, again, having a subscription or a membership is kind of the cost of doing business. It's now promoting that aggressively, right, with those deep discounts that I mentioned earlier. And then beyond that, it's obviously removing the points of friction that are giving customers pause and consideration to do something different, right? So whether that's an out of stock and not getting a good substitute or just not getting the product, a late delivery, poor quality product delivered where it's damaged or missing, all these things are everyday executional issues or basic block and tackle issues that we should be dealing with. They just take on increased import today because we really need to protect our customer in so many ways. We need to help them find ways to save while they're shopping with us. We need to help those customers get what they want when they're shopping with us, because if we don't, they'll go somewhere else.
So your advice is sound, I think, as usual, but if you had some practical next steps, what would you say they are for a regional? Is it to balance retention, do smarter segmentation? They still have to protect their margins. As they have these online shoppers, what do you think they should be investing in?
They need to have a full suite of digital deals, whether those are manufacturer digital clip coupons, TPRs, and those additional tools that people like Walmart are now introducing, where essentially you're earning reward points that are redeemable for cash value, right? So that last one is something that regionals should really pay attention to. And the reason I say that is because it's front and center with Walmart. I can see it firsthand through my experiences. It slowly builds up, and then you start to realize, okay, how does this change my behaviors? And it can, because you start to realize, wow, I'm saving more and more money. Look, even our household is in that mode of trying to find alternative ways to spend less, whether it's, me doing the mulch in the yard versus hiring a yard service and saving that money, or going to the grocery store and making certain decisions. So I think helping the customer save more money, ensuring that you're showing them how they save more money explicitly on the checkout is key. Walmart is doing this in spades, and they are winning, not just because of that, but because of the fact that their experience is improving, which we've talked about before. And it's only getting stronger, primarily because their flywheel is being fueled by increased demand. And that increased demand is really helping them realize some of these potential efficiency savings or productivity gains because of that volume. And that's the fundamental difference between Walmart and almost everyone else, is that Walmart, maybe with exception of a few others, has just incredible volume. And that volume is enabling them to really drive some tremendous gains in efficiencies and gains, as well as in additional incremental monies from retail media. So regional grocers really have to be looking at everything out there and looking at how that fits in with their existing capabilities so they could roll this out now. Because the longer this drags on, the more migration we'll see with customers who are just getting price fatigue or inflation fatigue or headline risk, right?
I mean, your point about the Walmart Cash, I've seen in my local grocer, Canadian grocer, Metro, just recently rolled out this, what they call their Moi Me Rewards program. But center of it, and this is new, is accumulating these cashback points that you can use for subsequent purchases. What was a high-low retailer is definitely focusing more on everyday savings. You can see that as an example of how the market has shifted.
You could say, I mean, Walmart is kind of taking what Club has done. I'm a Costco member, and I just got my check from Costco, and boy, oh boy, it was large. And so I went in there and said, I'm not going to spend this in a single trip, although my wife said we could. I mean, it was a lot of money. So they go, well, you don't have to spend it in the store. I was buying some stuff online, but I couldn't buy it there. They go, you can just cash it out right here. So I cashed it out. And I didn't know that. I think most people would just simply spend it back in Costco. Yeah. That's ideally what you'd want to do. So, Costco's different in that regard. But there is no question I'm renewing my business membership at Costco because the cost that I pay is a fraction of the money I get back. So if I pay $100, now we put a lot on our Costco charge, I get I'm just going to give you the range so you don't know the number, between 5 and 10 times back that amount. So if
you're buying a lot at Costco.
Yeah. So, there's no question there. And when you go to Walmart, it was $98. I paid $49. I can already tell you, if I were to apply the same logic, it's a no-brainer for me to stick with Walmart's Walmart Plus, because the savings that I'm realizing is really on the items in the basket that I used to buy, at my primary regional grocer, Jewel, right? Jewel is a half mile from my house and Walmart's 5 miles from my house. But now that I'm using Walmart's delivery, proximity really doesn't matter. And now I'm just going to take those national branded items that I was buying from Jewel, like my ginger beer that was $3 more a 6-pack, and just shift it over to Walmart. So the only time I ever buy it now at Jewel is if I'm absolutely out, it's 5 o'clock, and I need to have my one ginger beer for the day, and I'm not willing to drive 5 miles.
Does Kirkland make a ginger beer?
They probably do, but this is a national brand that I love and that I'm dedicated to. But it also comes from Bermuda, and I don't know if Bermuda got hit with tariffs. That could change it, because
I'm pretty sure they did.
At my local Jewel, the 6-pack for that costs $9.99. That's freaking expensive for non-alcoholic ginger beer.
Yeah.
At Walmart, it would be like $6.99 or maybe $7.99. But I haven't checked it today. I probably should, and see what's happened, because I do want to support the Bermudians.
Yeah, I'm just checking now. Yeah, they got hit with a 10% tariff.
Okay.
So there you go. I think you can expect the price increase on your favorite ginger beer.
As you get to your next topic, I am going to go look on my Walmart app right now.
I don't have another topic, David.
Hold on, ginger beer. Okay, now I'm in. Ginger beer, find it. There. Oh, yeah, it is $9.99 still, but it's on deal at $8.99. So yeah, it's $2.50 more right now. It would be $3.50 higher had they not put it on the deal. So, here's the crazy thing. So at $3.50 above, that's 54% higher. Okay, I don't pay that. I mean, that's like, I may as well go to a bar and pay $5 for a can.
Yeah.
And at the bars, they don't have this. So I sometimes think maybe I should just bring a can and pay them $6 so I can drink the ginger beer I like. Like a corkage fee?
Not a bad idea. Not a bad idea. All right. So on this exciting note, I have been asked to remind the audience to like and subscribe if the content is appealing to you. And please engage with us. Ask questions, put it in the comments. And we'd be happy to put questions into the next episode.
And share with your colleagues if you would like.
Absolutely. David, as always, a pleasure. If people want to get a hold of you directly, what's the best way to do it?
Yell out the window.
All right. That's david.bishop@brickmeetsclick.com. That's what you can yell. David, enjoy the rest of your month. We'll talk next time.
Sounds good. Thank you, Mark. You too.